the herd, Maria.
Now, I've popped across the road from BBC Radio Stoke, just to the Victoria Hall, just a stone's throw away, and to chat to my next guest, who you can see tonight as he's touring as the special guest on the 21st anniversary Solid Silver 60s show tour. He was once described by Sir Paul McCartney as Elvis in a bottle. In fact, so similar were the two artists' voices who recorded demos for Presley. He's had a dozen or so big hits in this country, and I suppose you might know about the splitting trousers incident as well. He is a legend, and I'm pleased to say with us on BBC Radio Stoke today, PJ Proby. Good afternoon to you.
How do you do?
As I join you here in your Winnebago, in the comfort of your own Winnebago, there is a little bit of a sombre cloud hanging over the day, because you've just heard only hours ago of the passing of your close friend Gene Pitney.
Yes, I have. I'm still just not back for 6. I just cannot believe it. He was so dadgum healthy, and he was just taking antibiotics for a hip replacement he was due to have back in the States. And he and I were planning a tour together, and I just last night before I went to bed made a memo to myself, send a card to Gene tomorrow for his opening, because he came over here from my manager, Robert Pratt. And he just... You
used to sort of correspond quite regularly, I guess.
Yeah, Gene used to always be concerned about my health. Gene stopped drinking in about 1968. I didn't stop until 92, when I actually dropped dead in Florida. So I haven't had a drink for 14 years, but Gene's always been asking after my health. Because when you've drunk as much, when you're a drinker like I was, even your friends don't believe you've quit. They just can't believe it.
I think it stays behind closed doors.
Yeah. And so Gene's always been very concerned about my health, and then this happens. I've never even concerned myself one day thinking about Gene's health, because he's always been so fit. And then when he stopped drinking, I thought, well, there goes a good drinking buddy, but I'm glad that he's seen the light and everything. I'm going to die by the sword, which I did. But then God came along and gave me another apple to bite on, and I've taken advantage of that. But dadgummit, Gene, of all people, almost all of the other people that I knew very well, who are now up in heaven, they all had abused their body in some great extent. Lennon, Elvis, Ricky Nelson, I'm not too sure about. I know he smoked marijuana, but that's, I hope, is nothing. Although Steve McQueen went to a marijuana farm for his health, and he died on it. So it didn't do anything for Steve. But I know for a fact that Gene never, ever took any drugs.
Will he get a mention tonight, by way of a tribute?
I will probably mention it if I don't think it'll come over as phony or anything like that. If I feel it on stage, if I feel Gene in my body, I'll certainly will mention it.
You mentioned Elvis and John Lennon and Ricky Nelson there, and of course you worked pretty much with Elvis from the start of his career as well, I suppose. You saw him come along at a very tender age, didn't you?
Well, I met Elvis when I was 14. He was going with my stepsister, Betty, and we were all managed by me and Tommy Sands and Elvis. Well, not Elvis at the time. Tommy and I were managed by Colonel Parker, along with Slim Whitman and Eddie Arnold and people like that. And then Colonel came to me and Tommy one day and said, "Boys, I'm going to have to let you fellas go, because I've just signed up another boy. He's a little older than you two boys, and I think I can do a little more with him." Said, "You'll meet him on Saturday. He's going to be singing with y'all at the Hitchin' Post. He's got a new record out, and it's doing very well, called That's All Right, Little Mama. His name is Elvis Presley, and you'll meet him Saturday night."
Wow.
That's how we all met.
Yeah.
And, of course, he kept coming over to the house and eating dinner at the house and going with my sister. And I was only there in the summertime, because I was in military academy all my life, and I had to go back to military school. But when I got out of Western Military Academy, Elvis, of course, had already been in Hollywood a year or two and had done a couple of motion pictures, and he was just being drafted as I got there in 57. But Tommy was still there, and To make a long story short, Tommy was involved in a lot of pictures with Pat Boone and everything. He didn't have much time for me, but he put me on to Lillian Goodman, a voice coach. And I got involved with a bunch of people who at Liberty Records who introduced me to different people, and I started making demos for Elvis for his motion pictures. I'd go in at 11 in the morning and cut the soundtracks for Speedway or something like that, or some beach thing and he was doing, and then I'd cut the soundtrack, and then they'd ship it up to him, up to his house, and he would have to learn it and then go in the studio and do it himself.
Very similar voices, the two of you.
All country boys sound a little like Elvis, almost all of them, and of course it wasn't very hard for me to pull it off, because I can actually imitate almost everybody except myself. I don't even know what PJ Proby sounds like.
I keep a close watch on this heart of mine. I keep my eyes wide open all the time. I keep the ends out for the ties that bind. Because you're mine, I walk the line. I find it very, very easy to be true. I find myself alone when each day's through. Yes, I'll admit that I'm a fool for you. Because you're mine, I walk the line. As sure as night is dark and day is light, I keep you on my mind both day and night. And happiness I've known proves that it's right. Because you're mine, I walk the line. You've got a way to keep me on your side. You give me calls for love that I can't hide. For you I know I'd even try and turn the tide. Because you're mine, I walk the line. I keep a close watch on this heart of mine. I keep my eyes wide open all the time. I keep the ends out for the tie that binds. Because you're mine, I walk the line.
Once Rock Hudson's minder?
Yes, I was.
Is that right? I
yes,
thought I might be making that up.
I went to Hollywood to knock Rock Hudson and John Derrick off their pedestals as pretty boys, because I thought I was so pretty they could never find a leading lady pretty enough for me. And so I went there, and I went to Henry Wilson, his manager and everything. But because I am such a staunch ladies' man, and I could not ever think of doing anything to further my career like homosexuality, he wouldn't touch me. Henry wouldn't touch me. That's what he wanted to do, but he wouldn't touch me. But he called me the Black Widow and spread it all over to every agent in Hollywood. Said, stay away from my name was Jet Powers then. Yeah. Stay away from Jet Powers. He's a Black Widow. He'll sting you. And so I couldn't get a job as an actor with any of the big agents. And so Henry said, why don't you go to work for me as a minder for my boys, for Tab Hunter, Rock Hudson, Liberace. So that's what I did. And with in Libby's case, it was a real shame, because what they did, these guys used to wait outside Liberace's gates, and when his mother drove in, she was a very old woman, they'd take her out of the car and beat her up, just because Liberace was a homosexual. So we'd wait in the bushes and wait till they came up to get Liberace's mother and break their arms and legs and send them to the hospital. Then Henry would call up about a month later and said, the boys are getting out today. meet them in the car lot and break them again. I said, but Henry, they've already been done. I just want them to remember this. Go on down there and do it.
What an amazing lifestyle that you were leading at the time. You know, there you are. I mean, does anyone still call you James? Because James became
James
became
PJ.
Became PJ Proby.
James is my real name. PJ Proby. I got that. See, Eddie Cochran was really my best buddy, and Sharon and Eddie were going together, and Sharon introduced me to Eddie. And when I went over there in the house and I met Sharon, met Eddie, and everything, we had a great friendship. But one day, there was nothing happening with my career in my life. I was a stuntman at Warner Brothers and didn't have a record contract or anything. One day, this big white Cadillac drives up to my little $5 a month apartment house, and said, honk the horn. And it was Sharon and Jackie DeShannon. Said, come on, get in the car. We're going to take you down and get your record contract. So I went down there, and she introduced me to Dick Glasser. I sang a couple of numbers I'd written. He said, great, we'd love to sign you up. Jet said, but we're going to have to change your name. You're very famous here in Hollywood with all the wrong people. You are very well known with the Wilshire Police Department. Said, you sleep there every Saturday night. And said, we're going to have to change your name.
So it came about as a result of your history.
Sharon said, name him PJ Proby. And so he said, is that all right? I said, anything's all right with me. And so I walked in with 25 cents in my pocket as Jet Powers. I came out with a $500 check as PJ Proby, somebody that Sharon used to go with before she dated Eddie Cochran. And I've never looked back since.
Right. I suppose what the show that you're performing tonight here at the Victoria Hall does is it brings your music to a whole new generation of people, doesn't it? Are they more reserved? Because in the past, you know, we've heard about the pants splitting.
Well, I have noticed the people that are there now never got to see me when they were young. They're in their 50s and 60s now, but they were 14 and early 20s in the early 60s. And I've noticed in the audience they brought their families along with them, young, beautiful little girls who join their mothers in rushing the stage. And I just sit there crooning away thinking, God almighty, what a lucky shit you are.
Got the best job in the world, have you? Yeah. That's make you feel great. PJ Proby, thanks very much indeed for talking to us today, and I hope that the rest of the tour goes really well for you, and it's been good to see you. And Tilly the dog, who's fast asleep on your lap.
Little Tilly.
PJ Proby, thanks a lot.
Thank you a lot for coming over.